Emerson, thanks for joining us.
No worries, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for being the first one off the rank.
Well, a bit of pressure, that's all right.
No pressure here, I promise you. I want to start with just talking about sort of where you came from, how your life was growing up and so on and so forth. A lot of people that choose trades, to me, seem to be their parents were tradies or what have you. So like your family, friends, what did you folks both work growing up? Like, tell us a bit about where you came from.
Yeah, you're spot on. So my dad is an electrician as well. So I grew up around the trade with that. My mum is a librarian. I grew up in Safety Bay, just down the road.
Right.
Spent my whole life living down there and naturally kind of moved into a trade role. A lot of my friends went that way, and it's just how I was brought up. Yeah, especially with dad being an electrician.
And your mum was a librarian?
Yeah, librarian, yep.
So was there a lot of reading when you were a kid?
Oh, she tried, but it was mostly out the back with dad, yeah.
Right,
yeah, managed
okay.
to stay out of the books. Yeah,
Yep.
No, mostly out the back.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
And obviously your parents both worked, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So you an only child? You got brothers, sisters?
No, I got two younger brothers. I'm actually quite lucky. One of my brothers works with me at SMEC, as well as my dad now.
Yeah.
During my apprenticeship, my dad came on board, and I was lucky enough to be able to give my younger brother a job as well. So he's just started his third year, so he's into it. And
Excellent.
then, my youngest brother, he's at university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So 2 out of 3 went into a trade.
2 out of 3 went the trade route, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I wanted to talk about that real quickly as well, about sort of how you came out of school and went into a trade. I was going through your resume online, and I noticed you graduated in 2015.
I did, yep.
A few years after me, if you can tell by the grey hairs. But you didn't start your apprenticeship until 2018.
Yeah.
So what happened with those years in between? What happened? Where was...
It's a bit of a strange one. So straight out of school, I went the uni path. I got accepted into Curtin University, and I was studying biology. And I was enjoying that for the first kind of 6 months, and then realised it wasn't really for me. Was a bit unsure of what I wanted to be doing, and it just didn't feel right. So I put it on hold, deferred for a little bit. And then I was very into kite surfing at the time, and I was very fortunate to pick up a few sponsors. And they kind of funded me for a few years, and I got to travel, and I competed around the world and toured and rode in some amazing places. So kind of put university on hold, and it got to the point where they were telling me, oh, look, you've got to come back and do a unit, otherwise we're going to have to shut it out, So I was just kind of made the call that I'll pursue the kite surfing for a little while, and university wasn't really for me. Like, I wasn't fully sold on what I wanted to do. I was unsure if that was the right path. I chopped and changed degrees a few times within that 6 months, and so I just pulled the pin on that and pursued the kite surfing for a little while.
And why, forgive me for the ignorance, why biology?
Oh, I was right into sports and sports science sort of stuff through high school, and I studied human biology and sports science at Colby Catholic, where I went to school. And it was just a natural progression, so it's just where I kind of went. But it felt like I was still at high school when I got there. I was learning the same things that I was doing at school, and it just wasn't for me.
So would you say that there was a bit of pressure, I should say, to go to university instead of picking up a trade or going and doing your kite surfing thing? I mean, you must have had people going, what are you doing? Why are you going and doing
Mum
your
was a little bit like that, but she got on board. But there was a fair bit of pressure. I applied myself pretty hard at high school. I did well, got good results. So it was kind of just naturally, you're kind of groomed that way. You're pushed that way, I guess. It wasn't really entertaining, the idea of a trade during my high school years. So it was kind of just always looking at uni, and that was kind of the option that I was given mostly.
Right. Okay. It's interesting you say that was the option that you were given. There seems to be this thing, at least that I can see, and I'm a little bit removed from it now, where people who are particularly bright or work really hard or are lucky enough to have a combination of the both seem to get pushed down that higher education.
Yeah, and that's just what happened. It just I was never really entertained with the idea of a trade. Like, I was aware of it, obviously, with my dad working in a trade, and a lot of my mates were heading that way, but for me at school, I was always kind of pushed towards higher education, towards university, even though I was always fairly unsure of what direction I'd go. If you ask my parents, I'd chopped and changed my mind about education so many times. So, but yeah, I was always kind of heading that way.
And if you had your time over again, would have you sort of done that same thing and done 6 months, or would have you just gone, nah, hang it, I'm going to Europe? Or
yeah, I would have got straight into my trade, to be honest. There's not much that I'd change. Like the kite surfing, everything was really fun, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I was doing a trade, but I'd get straight into the trade, for sure.
Okay. So moving down a few years later, 2018, you start your electrical apprenticeship.
Yep.
Why electrical of all of them? You've gone from school to biology, now to electrical. Was it just because of your dad being in the trade, or?
It was largely because of Dad, I guess. Dad always told me that he didn't really want me to be an electrician. He didn't want me to be the same as him.
Right.
But it was the one that's most interesting to me, when I started kind of coming to the realisation that kite surfing wasn't going to be a forever thing for me. I didn't want it to be a career. I wanted it to stay a hobby. The opportunities were cool, but I never wanted to be a job, So I started to look into a trade, and being an electrician kind of had the most appeal to me. And I just met a few people at the right time that helped me get into the role. So it's the most diverse. There's the most opportunities, and I think the future's so strong with it. I'm not worried about running out of work ever, so it just felt like the best option.
Yeah, out of all the trades.
Out of all the trades, I looked into them all. I got mates that are roofers, concreters, heavy diesel fitters, all of it. But yeah, Sparky was the pick for me.
And what's particularly caught your eye about the future? You mentioned that looking to the future, you're never going to be out of work.
No,
I mean, there's so much going on, and it's very hard to condense this into a 10-minute package or a 20-minute package or anything. You could talk for weeks about this stuff. But what do you see in particular that you're going, that's cool, I'm going to be working on that and I'm going to be doing this? Yeah,
just automation and the future of power supply, all going renewable, and just reducing carbon emissions. It's all everything's going to be electrical, everything. So there's no shortage of work for us forever.
Yeah.
So, and it's just getting more interesting. Even in mining, I work in mining, and as the demand for critical minerals gets higher and higher and higher, the way that we're mining is just getting smarter, getting safer, getting automated, and that's all driven by electrical. So it's a great trade to be involved in at the moment.
That's awesome. It boggles my mind, genuinely.
Yeah, it does me too. Every day you meet another electrician that's pushing in another direction, and there's just so much to it. No one knows everything about electricity. There's just far too much. No one's worked in every job. No one can even describe to you what you're going to be doing in a year. It's changing that quick and growing that quick.
Wow.
It's very entertaining almost.
Yeah.
It's great.
I mean, being in media, you see the advancements that we have had in, I don't know, I bought a new phone recently. Cool. Right, and I haven't had one for 6 years, a new phone. Last one I bought in 2016, and I've had it since. It died earlier this year, and I went, I've got to buy a new one. So I waited for one of the new Google phones to come out.
Cool.
Bought that. That was light years different, right? And the voice automation and everything like that. And you don't really generally think about that when it comes to a power socket or, an Ethernet port or anything that.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is that there's a lot of stuff going on in that field.
Involvement. Yeah, it's wild, the progress that the companies are making in making things safer and more efficient and lower emissions, and everything is just getting better and better and better, and quickly, very quickly. And
are we on the forefront of it here in Australia?
No, probably not.
Okay.
No, we're trying. There's certainly companies within Australia that are pushing for the renewable sector. I'm actually involved with one at SMEC. We're pushing in that direction as well, and there's people trying. I mean, we're probably not quite as technologically advanced as other countries, but there's certainly no lack of effort. It's just we're getting the ball rolling.
Yeah. So let's talk about SMEC just for a little bit. They're in Renewables. So tell us a bit about it. Because you've worked for them for some time.
Yeah, 5 years now almost.
5 years, there you go. So they're obviously a terrible company to work for.
Yeah, no.
Give us the lowdown. Give us the elevator pitch.
Yeah, so they're primarily, when I started, were a mining contractor, really, supplying labour and manufacturing underground starter boards, panels, substations. That's kind of how it was when I started, and it's diversified pretty quickly. We're doing all sorts of work. We're still mainly supplying the mining industry. The owner, Martin Law, managing director, he's getting into the renewables sector with a few business ventures of his that SMEC are tied up in. So we're going to be supplying vanadium redox flow batteries. I'm actually going to be going and installing one for the first time for me in the next 2 weeks, so that's very exciting.
Okay.
So it's just full off-grid power setups that will have the ability to run bore pumps, mine camps, and bigger and better. But yeah, it's still pretty new for us, so
Right.
work in progress.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, I've had conversations with numerous people over the last little while about renewables not being able to keep up with mining and steel production and all that kind of stuff. But it seems like it's getting there.
They'll get there. They'll get there. I mean, the energy demand of those industries is massive, but it's achievable. There's already mines in Western Australia that are almost entirely green, whether it's solar or wind powered, and using battery storage. They're getting there, one by one.
That's just boggles my mind.
But it's great that those companies are getting on board with that, because it's quite a big investment up front to install that sort of infrastructure, but they recognise that it's what they need to do for the environment, and that they will pay for themselves. So
yeah,
it's good to see people are getting on board with it.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned that you'd been working for these guys for 5 years. You were also an apprentice through EGT.
Yep.
And EGT is one of our arms here at ECA. Why did you go through EGT?
So I went through EGT just because that's how SMEC were employing all of their apprentices at the time. So I met Tony Ohm, the operations manager at SMEC, and got along well, and he offered me the role to come down and get involved, and I spent a couple of months on the tools as like a TA, I guess, at SMEC, and then he signed me up through EGT, and that's how I did my apprenticeship. So I was with EGT, but I spent my whole time at SMEC, yeah.
Okay.
So a bit different to how other people do it, but yeah, that's how my time was.
Okay, and how was the experience at EGT?
It's great. They take all the hard and annoying stuff out of the process. You've always got your field officer on the phone. I made plenty of calls to Gary Livett, who was a legend. So spoke to him plenty, and just helps with if you're having dramas with anything at work, even personal. If that's, you're having dramas there, they're always willing to talk and help out, and helped me. With my work schedule, I had to change dates with college a few times, so they were always helpful with that, and just arranging that and making sure that I could get the tuition that I needed throughout the time, and being flexible with a kind of difficult industry to work in. So that was great. But yeah, they super helpful.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
And you'd recommend them to people?
For sure. Yeah, it's easy. And a lot of people that are with EGT get to move around and try different employers and see different parts of the industry. That's a cool opportunity. It's not one that I took advantage of, but a lot of people that come in and out of SMEC over my apprenticeship, and even some of my apprentices now, they are in EGT, and they've got a very diverse range of experience for young apprentices. So that's a pretty golden opportunity. You come to the end of your time and you're experienced in a lot of different fields, so that's golden, I reckon.
You just said something there that I went, oh, that's interesting. You said my apprentices.
Yeah.
So you've now got people under you.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've got apprentices,
Yeah.
which is cool. It's awesome. It's kind of terrifying. Like a couple months ago, like nearly a year ago, I was an apprentice, and now I'm looking after apprentices. But it's great. It's great because I can help them with everything and pass on what I've been taught. In my case, it's really cool. My dad was my tradesman for some of my apprenticeship, and now my brother is my apprentice. So that's pretty cool to pass it on like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a few apprentices, and we get to take them out bush and show them what's going on, and introduce them to things that they've never seen. Like, not many people have worked in underground mines and installed substations in underground mines, so it's always cool to get a young apprentice out there and get him involved and pass it on. It's awesome, yeah.
It's an interesting life, isn't it, working on mine sites and so on and so forth. And I want to get on to talking about FIFO in just a tick. But just before we do, I just want you to take us through, and it's great that you're actually in your high-vis today, so this is awesome. A lot of people don't really know what a trade looks like outside of Well, I mean, they see the viral TikToks of people singing on site and having a dance and all that. And
Yeah, I don't see much of that.
my dad's a builder, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
I understand that's all very different. It's some of that stuff does happen, but it's like the 0.2% that
Yeah,
actually
you don't see that
occurs.
much of that, no.
What's the typical day in the life of Emerson?
Oh, it's an early start. Yeah, it's always an early start. Typically, my work days are away, so I'm on a mine site. It's an early start. Go crib, breakfast, get your lunch, into it. There'll always be a pre-start, and I mean it's good. You're working with good blokes all day, learning things. They're long days. But you get used to it. And when you're at home working in the city, it's awesome. You'll have your early start. You'll do your 8-10 hours, and then you knock off. And in summer, you got a few hours in the afternoon, sun, and get to hang out with your mates. And it's good. Like it's not daunting, the long days or the early mornings. Like some people don't like getting up early, but you get used to it pretty quick.
Yeah.
You get to get dirty, get filthy, and roll around, and it's good. It's good, yeah.
And you say you start early.
Yeah.
Just so people have an idea of how early. Because, if my partner was watching this, for example, she would go, early, that's like 5 o'clock. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
So she's up generally quite early to start early. For me, it might be getting up to catch a plane. So that's like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's early.
Is this early? Is that what we're talking
it depends,
about?
like what side I'm on and kind of what the routine is. But usually I'm up by 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usual, and that kind of just carries on to my home life as well. Now it's just always up at 4 o'clock. My partner works FIFO, so we're bloody both up at 4 o'clock and into the day, which is actually great. Like I have no interest in sleeping in. That's wasted hours as far as I'm concerned. Like I'm early to sleep because I'm just stuck in the routine. So up early, sun's up, job's on, into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the way.
That's awesome. So that's a real day. It's a real day in the life.
Yeah, it's even on break. Real day in the life is you're up early and you're going hard and you're enjoying it and having fun, ripping in.
Awesome.
It's good. Yeah.
That's awesome. You and your other half are both FIFOs.
We are. Yep.
Give us. Well, not so much.
She's actually electrical apprentice too now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Not one of yours.
Not one of mine. No, she works at a different company.
Okay. Why FIFO? I mean, I understand it's WA. In WA, there is a big thing about FIFO. Before we were rolling here, I was telling you about how I'm from Sydney originally. And we hear all the time on the East Coast about, FIFO, and particularly a lot of discussion around money and so on and so forth with it.
Sure.
And I didn't quite understand it until I actually got here, and
massive,
I have friends here who do it, and they just, I'm a FIFO, and it rolls off the tongue like anything
normal.
else. Like, I drive a Holden, it's like, I'm a FIFO.
It's just normal,
right. But why choose it?
Oh, I mean, everyone's going to think straight away the money. I mean, the money's there for sure. You can make really good money working away. There's a bit of a sacrifice for it, but also beyond the sacrifice, there's a lifestyle that's just awesome. If you get into your even time rosters, if that's what you want, if you want to just have fun, enjoy your time, you can work an 8 and 6 or a 2 and 2 and have half the year off. Really, like you're still making good money and you've got half the year off.
Yeah,
which is an awesome way to do it. A lot of my mates work at 2 and 2, so then on their R&R they can drive up the coast. They'll drive up to Exmouth and spend their break there. Like it's easy. You got that whole 2 weeks, no one's calling you. Like you're off, and it's off Monday to Friday as well. So there's no crowds around. Like you can have a really cool lifestyle doing it. But also, there's jobs out there that are pushing 3-in-1s, 2-in-1s, or the 3-in-1s now as well, which you can go and make some good coin quick. Like if you just put your head down for a year, get on a construction gig, you can make money quick. So that draws a lot of people in. But for me, it's lifestyle. Yeah, lifestyle and opportunity. There's a lot of room for growth career-wise out there, but yeah, lifestyle and opportunity for sure. And it's kind of more interesting than electrical in Perth in my mind. There's like good opportunities in an industrial environment in Perth, but not as much. So for me, lifestyle and opportunity are the big draw for FIFO.
So, I mean, it offers you freedoms, obviously, that maybe a standard 9 to 5 like I work. It affords you different freedoms.
It does, yeah. There's sacrifice. It's like it's all give and take, but for me, it's worth it. Like I can't imagine working in Perth. I mean, I am sometimes I have to. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of on an R&R at the moment, and there was an opportunity to get involved and help out in a job that was interesting to me, and I was like, it's winter, the weather's not that good, so
Yeah.
go to work on my break and make a bit of extra coin, and you can do that as well, which is golden.
And you mentioned a 2 and 2, so that's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. You also mentioned an 8 and 6. I assume that's
6, yeah.
8 days, 6 days
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
Where are these locations generally? I mean, I know that they're remote mine sites.
Yeah.
But for anyone who maybe is watching this and isn't quite familiar with West Australian geography, you're talking FIFO means fly in, fly out. So you are on a plane, you go somewhere.
Yeah.
How remote are these mine sites? How remote are we talking?
Well, so I say FIFO, I work for a contractor, so we obviously have to get vehicles around a fair bit, so I do quite a lot of driving as well. So to answer that question, last week I had to drive home from a mine site, and it was 987 kilometres. So that kind of gives you an idea. There's ones that are a lot further from Perth, like iron ore sites right all the way up north inland of around Newman and up there. They're a long way from Perth. I'm generally servicing kind of Kalgoorlie through to Meekatharra sort of area, so a couple hundred k's from the coast. On a plane, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in a car, 10-hour day driving, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, pretty far.
Wow. So, I mean, that's the distance it's a little under the distance from Sydney to Melbourne.
Yeah,
So
that's,
there you go. That's my hat off to you.
Yeah, it's a fair bit of driving out.
Now, the last time you and I chatted was at the NECA Awards.
Yep.
Where you won Apprentice of the Year for the 4th time, 4 years in a row. First one to do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the last, but definitely the first one. And during that chat, you said to me that your next aspiration, the next goal for you is boss man. That's where you want to go to.
For sure. Yeah.
And people know that. And
Yeah,
people
I'll make it public, yeah.
Yeah, people aren't shy of it. What I'm interested is knowing what opportunities that being boss man or the boss will give you that you don't have now.
It's the opportunity to create your own team, and bring everyone up the way that you want them to, and create an environment that I think is right. I mean, working for SMEC, they're great. They have got a great environment, but there's still things that you could do differently with your own team, and that's kind of the most exciting part for me, and give the opportunities to my team and just pass on what I've learnt, and yeah, I think that's the most exciting part. And diversify business, that's interesting to me as well, push businesses in different directions. Yeah, that just take control, I guess, and push it how I want to. That's the exciting part of it.
I mean, what I'm hearing you say is building business and building your own business, but also being able to pass on your information.
Yeah, you want to be able to share what you've learned. I've worked for some incredibly talented and incredibly smart people, so to be able to pass on what I've learned, it'd be greedy to hold it all,
Yeah.
And if you pass it on, sooner I pass on what I've learnt, the sooner I don't have to do the hard jobs that I'm doing at the moment. So that's the cool part as well. You do your time, you master what you're doing, and then you teach and help progress it. Awesome. So that's quite a bit of appeal in all that for me.
No, it's good to have a selfless attitude to it as well, not a selfish attitude, which is, it's really good to see. Similarly, with that, I also wanted to talk a little bit about what being an electrician, maybe not necessarily specifically FIFO, but what the role actually affords you outside of work. I'm not saying you don't like your job, but I'm sure it's not the thing that gets you up of the morning.
Nah, it's not what drives you all the time, is it? No.
So I suppose what I'm really asking is what's your why? What gets you up in the morning? How does being a sparky or an electrician or someone in the electrotechnology trade help you achieve that why? What's the goal for you? Aside from being boss man?
So boss man, that's the work life, What gets me up in the mornings, I love travelling, exploring, especially this beautiful country, riding into my 4-wheel drives, boating, fishing. Yeah. So working as a sparky, we make good money. So it helps you afford the toys, which is gold. That's a massive part for me. So being able to afford the toys that I want, set it up how I want, and then be able to afford to have the time off and go and enjoy it. So I've actually only just recently got back from a trip up the coast. I spent a couple of weeks up around Karratha, around that area, and went camping out on islands and like remote coast. Like it was wicked. So bit of an understanding on how machinery works and how technology works is pretty handy when you're a long way from any help. So being able to power your car so that you can charge your batteries and have cold beers in the fridge, like being able to set all that up yourself is pretty cool. But the being a sparky and being in a trade, we make good money early. You're getting paid to learn, so like you make good money through your apprenticeship. And like I could buy my dream car when I was an apprentice and set it up throughout. And now as a tradesman, you don't have to work as much as if you don't want to, or you can kind of find a balance and you can spend more time enjoying it. And I've been doing quite a bit of that, so that's a lot of my motivation at the moment, getting out and enjoying it.
So what I'm hearing you say on that is not only does it afford you the lifestyle and the actual work itself is fantastic, but it's the other stuff that you do with your life, in your case 4-wheel driving or whatnot, or for someone it might be buying a house and having a couple of kids, or it might be overseas European holidays, or starting a winery or something. Pretty fair to say that
for sure. You can afford the lifestyle that you want to live. You've got to knuckle down and do the work, but where you can do whatever you want, really. Which is cool.
So taking you back to 2015, Emerson.
Yep.
Very, very scarily, I know.
Yeah.
If you'd have stuck with biology and or gone into sports science or something like that, do you think that you would have been able to hit your goals that you're hitting now as quickly?
Nah, I'd only still be learning, really, wouldn't you? I don't know. I don't think I ever would have stuck with those degrees, so it's hard for me to imagine. I'd probably still be jumping around trying to work out what I want to do, and just not being fully sold on anything. So it's hard to imagine that, but just get the trade, get into it. If you're unsure of what you want to do, get a trade. You're going to get paid for your learning, and you're going to end up loving it. Like you're going to end up enjoying it and meeting cool people and wanting to be involved. Like it's a completely different environment to what I experienced at university. Like it's great. It's awesome.
And I suppose even if you don't enjoy it at the end of the day, you've still got some amazing skills.
You've developed so much. You've been paid to do your learning, which is awesome. You don't get that at university. You've met heaps of people, and you've gotten so much like real world experience. In your 4 years doing a trade, you are out there. You're not like in a classroom. You have to come to college and do your time there, but the large majority of your time you're out real world, meeting people, talking to people, seeing all sorts of different things. I work alongside engineers and scientists and everything. Like you see that side of the world too, and you can go, oh, geez, I'm glad I did my trade,
Yeah.
but the real world experience throughout an apprenticeship just will just help you so much. Even if at the end of your time, whatever trade you do, you say, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Worse off. You've got real world experience. You've been paid to learn. You've met people. You've seen so much stuff. Like, it's a great way of doing it, especially if you're unsure of what you want to do.
And it sounds to me like you wouldn't want to go back and take the uni route.
Nah,
just not happening.
I wouldn't. No, absolutely not. Okay. Pretty stoked with the way that I've done it now.
Excellent. Final question, and I think I know what the answer's going to be, but I'll ask it anyway. If you were starting out again today, would you do it all the same, or would there be some things that you would change?
Look, I'm not someone to kind of regret anything that I've done or want to change the past. I had a great time travelling, like seeing cool parts of the world and whatnot, but the one thing that I'd potentially consider changing is just jumping in my trade straight out of school. That's the only thing. I wouldn't change my trade, but if I'd change one thing, that'd be it.